Welcome to DAX Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us for another edition of DAX Machina. Welcome to everyone in the DAX Machina Nation. DX Machina Nation, let me say that right. Kind of a crazy night going on so far. Weather in Missouri is pretty much unpredictable as it can possibly get. 3-4 days ago, we were 80 degrees. Now tonight we're 28. So, a lot of people get 4 seasons in 1 year. We sometimes get them in the span of a single week in Missouri. So, if you don't like the weather in Missouri, stick around a day or two. It'll be different. Joining me tonight is my brother from another mother, Robbie Rains, the scalp hunter himself. We are short one Doc and one Anthony tonight. I guess Anthony's still having some technical issues on his end from all the storm damage that went through for that second hurricane that hit Florida. And Doc is on his way back from College Station, Texas to his home in Colorado. He said it was a 14-hour drive, so he probably won't be there for another couple hours. So guys, say a prayer. Keep those guys in your prayers, and make sure you guys, when you say a prayer tonight, say a prayer for Miss Lanita, who's in the audience tonight. We love you, Miss Lanita, and she's having some health issues, and we are all pretty worried about her. So, guys, think of her in your prayers tonight too. We would certainly appreciate that. Norman Meredith says Mogollon shirt. Yes, it is. I'm wearing my Mogollon shirt. Although it might now be the Robbie Rains shirt. We don't know. We'll just have to see. So, Robbie, how you doing tonight, brother?
Well, I'm not going to say what's on the shirt because we're not good.
It might be good for you. You don't know.
Yeah, might be. Morgan's going to have to whip me into shape, apparently.
So how's things out in South Crackalacky?
Well, good. It's kind of same with the weather. We had a 60-degree day, and it went down to a 30-degree, and then I'd worked nights past 2 nights, or split shift past 2 nights. So that was all nice, rainy, cold, 30-degree weather. So
yeah, well, cold and wet, the cop's favorite combo.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than having to fight somebody on the ground when there's a thin layer of ice on it.
Yeah. And Chris is trying to get me to say what's on the shirt, but it's not going to work. I'm not saying it. I'm sure it's going to be done enough to me in the book, so I'll do it in real life.
Ricky Sanders says, I was just catching up on the Genosco episode. I hope you guys don't have the mysterious audio issues again. I hope not. I think the issue was an internet problem on Ryan's end, because it always seemed to be on his audio. And Camo Dad 72 says, DA, hope all is well. I'm off from Kentucky to New York in the AM, so not staying on long. Didn't find Dogmen, Bigfoot, or any whitetails we're shooting over the last 2 weeks. Well, hopefully you at least enjoyed yourself out in the woods. Because you don't always see something, but it's always a good time, at least in my experience. I've always enjoyed being out in the woods, even if I didn't find anything. Smedley Do Right says, Mogollon Monster, is that like a Gila monster? Well, probably in the same respect that they'll both kill you if they get half a chance. I never cared for Gila monsters. I'm not much of a reptile guy. Mogollon Monster says, stop the search, I'm here, but my friends call me Moggs. Hello, what's up, everybody? Well, Mogollon, thank you for being here. We will try to do your state's monster justice tonight. For those of you who aren't familiar with what the Mogollon Rim is, the Mogollon Rim is a massive topographical and geological feature that cuts across the northern half of the U.S. state of Arizona. It extends approximately 200 miles, starting in northern Yavapai County and running eastwards near the end of the border with New Mexico. It forms the southern edge of the Colorado Plateau. The Mogollon Rim itself is part, at least the part we're going to be discussing, is part of the Park Service. There are all kinds of hiking trails there, camping, hunting, fishing. It's a beautiful area, and you wouldn't really expect an area in. Most people, when you think Arizona, you think desert, but people don't realize just how thickly wooded that area is. beautiful country. There are some very arid areas. You're going to find areas that are very desert-like, especially when you get closer to Phoenix. But there in those mountains, you get a lot of scrub pine, a lot of pinon pine, Joshua trees, juniper trees. It's actually more heavily forested than people realize. So that is very Sasquatch Odysseys. I see eye shine. Yeah, you'll actually see it on all over the place. My buddy Adam made this animated background for us, so I like having that up there because it makes it look creepy. David Bice says, "Go up by Flagstaff. It's anything but desert." Yeah, I've been through that area many times, and down all the way from Flagstaff until you cross through those mountains. It's a beautiful area. I lived in New Mexico for a time and stomped around down there quite a bit, and I've traveled fairly extensively in the Southwest. And even the desert is just hauntingly beautiful. And one of the coolest things is camping out in the desert at night, because you can lay flat on your back and almost feel like you're the only thing in the universe. I mean, stars from corner to corner of your vision, just absolute beautiful night sky. And those of us that live in towns or live in cities don't realize how much light pollution washes out the stars. Until you get someplace out in the open like that, you just don't appreciate how vast the night sky is. Out in the deserts of Arizona, New Mexico, and even parts of California, it is the most beautiful skylines I have ever seen. Just absolutely amazing. Have you ever been down there?
I've been to Oklahoma, so I've been, I guess, pretty close. When Kevin graduated from basic, he was out at Fort Sill, and it's that same way. You look out and you're just like, wow. I mean, I live in the country, but it's a totally different thing when you got mountains all around you versus just that big flat wide open area. But and this is nothing bad against New York. I don't, but I'm a country boy. I went to New York one time, so I can say I've been one time. That's just
that's how I felt when I went to LA. I was like, this is way
spaces.
too much city for me.
Yep, give me the wide open spaces. If I ever thought about being a country or a city boy, that took it out of me right then. I'm like, nah, this is not for me.
We used to go out with my pickup and park out and we'd drive off the road, get away from the highway, drive out into a field, and get out and lay on the hood of the truck with our backs up against the windshield and just look up.
Yeah,
just amazing. But the Mogollon Rim, what makes that particularly unique is the fact that it's got deserts to either side of it. It's like this mountainous, forested oasis kind of in the middle of the desert. And if you're driving from either east to west or west to east in Arizona, if you start at one end of the state, it's like desert and miles of desert, and then there's these mountains, and then once you pass those, it's desert all the way into New Mexico. But it is really, the topography there is just absolutely beautiful, and it is the perfect range for a Bigfoot type creature to live. The Mogollon Monster has been seen for the longest time, and it was nicknamed that because it was seen along the Mogollon Rim. And there's some debate on whether or not it's an actual Bigfoot or if it's something unique to the area. I personally think it's a Bigfoot, at least Bigfoot type creature, because all the reports seem to line up with sightings of Bigfoot in other places. Now, as far as I know, there has never been a recorded violent encounter with the Mogollon Monster. However, like any other place, there are missing hikers. So one can make the argument that the violent ones just ended so badly that nobody reported it.
Yeah.
So
and
I can't.
Like we said plenty of times before, missing people don't tell no tales.
Right.
If they're never found.
Naoma Finn's there. Hey, Naoma.
Hey, Naoma.
She said, I love the country, but sometimes I like to go to the city just for the anonymity. Out here, everyone knows who you are and what you're doing, even if you don't want them to. I get you, but I want to live so far that I don't even see my neighbor. I want to measure my closest neighbor in miles, not feet.
Yeah.
I always said if I ever won the lottery, I'd buy 1,000 acres of timberland and build a house smack in the middle of it. just as far from the boundary of the property as I could possibly get.
Yep.
Smedley Dude writes, as a Bigfoot type monster, I was hoping for a lizard monster. Well, that's coming when we do the Lizard Man Escape or Swamp. That one's coming. So even the BFRO's got quite a few sightings in Yavapai County. Most of them are Class Bs, but there was a Class A from an Army vet. A lot of the stuff along the Mogollon Rim. I mean, there's been more than just sightings reports. People have shot video there. There've been footprints collected. Hair samples have been collected, but of course, they say nothing conclusive, which I don't get. We've talked about this before, and I think I'll launch a little bit back into it again. Why is it we can send somebody to prison for life on eyewitness testimony, but it doesn't mean shit when it comes to Bigfoot?
Yeah, we have discussed that before, and I feel the exact same way.
I don't get it.
I mean, think about half the people we've taken statements from that have put people in jail are nowhere near as credible as most of the people who say they've seen Bigfoot, but yet.
Right. Yeah, I've seen people go away for 20 years on the testimony of a crackhead, but you get doctors and lawyers and judges saying they saw Bigfoot, and nobody believes them. But hey, what do I know? Hey, but I still think eyewitness testimony is probably, in my opinion, the most credible. I joke about it, but Bigfoot reports aren't like they were back when I was, in my early teens collecting stories. It wasn't some guy in bibbed overalls with no shirt on under it and one strap undone on. Yeah, I done see the Bigfoot. He chased after me in my pick-em-up truck. It's not like that. You do get a few of those, people that have a lifetime ban from the UFO hotline. But you do get a few of those, but by and large.
Well, you think about it back then, though. Most of the people who were out in the woods and out in the places that was the ones that were out there. Now there's so many.
That's why I always talk to all my relatives, because my relatives are a bunch of hillbilly bumpkins. I mean, for example, I love my brother to death. I hope he's watching, but we just got our invite for Thanksgiving out at his house, and he lives outside a little town called Nebo. And when I tell you there is nobody in Nebo, I am not joking. Nebo is like a sign and a store. And if you miss the turn for the gravel road, you ain't finding it. He lives in Hillbilly Junction. I'm telling you, he's in the middle of nowhere. And a lot of my relatives were like that. The ones I used to ask all the time when I was a kid, you ever seen Bigfoot? And I'd get a few of them that would humor me and tell me goofy little stories or tell me they saw one steal a pig or something like that. But for the most part, nobody really took it serious until people started believing people when they saw them. We've got more and more credible eyewitnesses coming forward all the time. And I think, and I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back, me and Robbie or Anthony or any, I'm not trying to pat us on the back, but it's shows like this that have given people a voice, that allowed people to come to a venue where they don't feel ridiculed for telling their stories. I don't understand some of these people that'll go, "Oh, you're just crazy," or if you say something like, I saw Bigfoot and I saw UFO lights, or I saw Bigfoot and I saw orbs. There's some organizations that I won't name that will immediately discount your story, immediately just chuck it. They won't even take the story. But who's to say? I mean, we don't know. There are a lot of there's a couple of incidents out on the Mogollon Rim where people reported seeing lights in the sky right after or right before they saw they gave an account of the Bigfoot. Well, the thing is if you've ever been out to the Arizona night, seeing weird lights in the sky, not that uncommon an occurrence. We've got the Phoenix lights. The Phoenix lights were filmed by hundreds of people, and I don't care what the Air Force come forward and say, "Oh, it was just weather balloons." It wasn't weather balloons. If you go on YouTube and look up Phoenix lights, tell me those are weather balloons. There's no doubt in my mind those are not weather balloons.
Well, I mean, how disturbing and how otherworldly was the Northern Lights for the first people who saw them before they were understood what they were?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, the ancient Vikings used to say that the Northern Lights were the lights of the stars reflecting off the Valkyrie's armor. And that's how they explained the Northern Lights. But now today we know that it's electromagnetic radiation reacting with our upper atmosphere. Yeah. But they didn't know that back then.
but we understand it. But those people who were first talking about that, because you don't see that unless you're in that area.
Mm-hmm.
The first people who were describing that, I'm sure they were called as crazy as those of us who used to be that said we saw a Bigfoot. Yeah, right. Oh, we saw lights in the sky. Yeah, right. Well, there they are. Now we know about them, and it's a common thing. I mean, and I think the Bigfoot, Dogman, sightings like that, I think that's starting to go in that direction. There's more and more people coming forward. More and more people feel comfortable. And like you said, there's more police officers, doctors, lawyers, judges, more credible people that are coming forward.
I'm not saying that some guy that was just driving home in his pickup truck and saw one of these things is any less credible than I am. I've spent most of my career in law enforcement. I'm not saying that at all. But you have people coming forward that have things to lose.
Right.
They lose their credibility. Robbie, and I'll tell you, if a defense attorney gets it in their mind that they can show you're crazy, you'll destroy your testimony and anyone you're testifying against will walk.
Yep.
That's why a lot of officers will not come forward with Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah, and that's the point I was making. There's people who have, like you said, more on the line to lose coming forward and saying this, other than just the average person who goes to work and it doesn't matter to their employment whether they say they saw Bigfoot or a Dogman or lights in the sky. It's not going to matter. But like you said,
Right.
If we lose our credibility,
you can no longer testify on the witness stand. Once they've destroyed your credibility, you're done. You might as well go be a door greeter at Walmart, because you're not going to be doing much good as a cop. Papa Bear says there's a small town in Kentucky called Woodford, Kentucky. On the highway, you pass a beautiful wood sign saying "Now entering Woodford, Kentucky." Before you can say that you passed that sign, now you see one saying "Now leaving Woodford, Kentucky." Well, in Missouri, we call those a poke and plumb town. You poke your head out the window and they're plumb through it.
sounds like a little town here in my area called Pumpkin Town. You go through the four-way stop, and that starts it. And as you come through the other side, that ends it. Welcome to Pumpkin Town. Blink and you miss it.
That's what Nebo, Missouri is, out by where my brother lives. It's a poke and plumb town, kind of like Eldridge out where my uncle lived. But we're kind of digressing a little bit. We're gonna get back on the Mogollon Monster. Us getting off topic. No, say it ain't so.
Never.
Never
It don't
happens.
happen.
I don't know what you're talking about here. But some of these accounts along the Mogollon Rim, like for example, the book I wrote, it's called The Nightmare Hunter. It's set in the Mogollon Rim, and I based that off several accounts that I read. One was from a female hiker who said that one of them tried to grab her, and she ran off and screamed, and it took off. Now, it obviously it didn't get her, but there are still a number of missing hikers in that area. I'm not saying that mountain lions or bears didn't get them, because there definitely are those creatures in that area. But from the reports, I believe there are Bigfoot type creatures in there. But my favorite thing along the Mogollon Rim, this happened about 2 years ago. The video was up on YouTube for about a month, and now I can't find it. I have hunted high and low, and the video was titled Mogollon Scream or something like that. So these two guys got a copy of a good quality Bigfoot scream, and they took a really high quality speaker system, Bluetooth speaker system, out to the Mogollon Rim and set that on the back of their truck and turned up as loud as they could turn it, and they blasted this Bigfoot scream. And it's the one that they refer to as the siren call, which if you've heard any of the Bigfoot outlaws and heard what's his name, Kumbo Baker talk. He was sitting in his house one time playing that siren call, and it called one up to his house, and it was like screaming at him outside the house, and it freaked him out. But it was that same siren call, and Kumbo says he thinks that's a territorial or a challenge. So anyway, these guys blast this call, and the first time nothing happens, and they waited about 20 seconds, and they hit it again, and no sooner had it shut off something screamed back at them at very close range, close enough it scared the shit out of the two guys, and they turned the camera off as they're running back to their truck. So I guess they boogalooed out of there and got the hell out of there. But the video was up for the longest time, and I wish I would have downloaded that video. But had I known it was going to disappear, I would have. But the video was only up for about a month. Me and some of the guys that were on the old Nightmare Hunter show that we used to do about 2 years ago, we played it on the show a couple of times. And there's just absolute astounding video that they got a response, and it was not the response they wanted. And I'm pretty sure it was an aggressive response, because it scared the living hell out of those guys, and they were beating feet in a hurry.
Well, and we've talked about that before. You see all the shows out there doing the wood knocks and the call blast and all that stuff. We have no clue what any of that stuff means, and just to walk around out there in the woods and start doing that kind of stuff, you don't know what kind of response that's going to elicit.
Right. Naoma Finn says, is that the same video that on Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization's channel? I don't know. If you can find that video, Naoma, would you send me the link so I can check it? Because if that's the same video, I would love to show that on here, because whatever it was scared the crap out of those two guys. But again, there's an area down along the Mogollon. It's like a man-made dam. And one of the reports I read along the Mogollon Rim were two guys that went down there to go night fishing and got chased out of the area. Again, I would consider that an aggressive encounter, even though both of them made it back to their vehicle safely. They both said that every time they would stop, it would stop, and as soon as they would start to walk, it would scream and chase them again. So clearly, if it wanted them, it would have got them. But it was definitely aggressively encouraging them to get the hell out of the area.
Yeah, that's I've been on some expeditions, and they're like, "You want to try some wood knocking or stuff?" I said, "No,
yeah,
we ain't doing that on here." 'Cause, you just don't know what that means.
Yeah, Northwood's got a good point. Says the last thing you want to do is send out a Bigfoot mating call. Yeah, do you have a plan in place if Bigfoot comes out of the woods looking for love? Because I don't have a plan in place for that, nor do I want to experience it. You can't say no means no to Bigfoot. Hey, we got a super chat from William Bedard. Hey, brother, thank you so much. Hey, thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, William.
Appreciate that, sir. Thank you so much. But there's stories like that all along the Mogollon Rim. Most of the ones that are on the BFRO site are Class Bs. But I'm just going to read the Class A one. It says Arizona, Yavapai County, where the park ended and the dirt road began. Nearest town was Prescott. Was on the Thumb Butte Loop. It says, I was on the Thumb Butte Loop in Prescott next to the city park. While driving, I spotted a reddish-brown ape-like creature. I stopped the car immediately and observed the creature. The hair on its arms was longer than the rest, which seems to be fairly common in that area. They always describe the hair being longer on the arms. It appeared to have little or no neck. It appeared to be very muscular and covered ground quickly. It was hard to judge the height of the creature because of the distance and shock, but I knew it was tall. It walked in the tree line, and there was a gap in the trees about 75 meters long. I watched this creature walk through the opening. I remember his arms swinging, and he only looked forward, estimated through military experience that it was 100 meters from my position. I was sitting in the car with my head turned, looking out the back and side window. I estimate that I saw him for at least 10 seconds, although it seemed longer. What I remember most is my mind wrestling with the thought that what I was seeing was not supposed to exist, yet I was viewing it. It was a most unsettling experience. What I tell you is the truth. I've never told anyone out of fear of ridicule and having my sanity questioned. I hope this information can help your organization. To me, that sounds like a very credible. The guy's obviously shook. Wasn't a believer before, and his descriptions are spot on. And I can tell you, you get really good at estimating ranges when you have to qualify in the military all the time. You know that 100-meter target very well.
And I can relate to that that whole mindset of what you're looking at is not supposed to be there. It's not supposed to be in existence. Because that I was younger, so it was a little bit easier for me to wrestle with, and as it would have been as an adult, I'm assuming. But still, you were like, this is not supposed to. Something's wrong here. What am I looking at? So I can totally agree with that part of it, and just.
What are you saying?
I was just saying, I saw a comment that kind of got me off. But I was just saying I can totally relate to that part of it where he said, wrestling with that in your mind, and then especially once you get to the point where you actually tell somebody and they're like, no, that's not what you saw, and then you start questioning yourself, like, well, maybe I didn't see what I thought it was. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. And you start questioning yourself, and you just got to push all that back and say, no, I know what I saw. It was what I said it was, and I'm not crazy.
That happens in stressful situations. And I know people don't want us to get off on a tangent talking about cop stories, but I've been in fights where I've had to set when I was going to write the report and like, okay, how did this happen? I mean, where did we get from point A to point B? What happened? What were the steps in between? Yeah. And when those critical incidents hit you and your adrenaline dumps, memory gets a little choppy sometimes.
Yeah. That PNS backlash.
What's that?
The PNS backlash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, for those of you out there who don't know what that is, I'm not going to try to. I learned it when I went through as a defensive tactics instructor. I'm not going to try to remember what that stood for. Somebody probably knows out there. But basically what that boils down to is your adrenaline dump when things are happening. And that's when you start losing control of your fine motor skills, and you only can operate with, was it gross motor skills at that point, DA? I think.
Yeah.
And it's basically like the tunnel vision, and everything that you don't need fades away, and you get like
that's when they teach you to monkey paw your magazines when you're changing your magazine.
Yep.
Because if you try to do it with your fingers, you're gonna drop them.
Yep.
Something that you think you've got muscle memory built on becomes very difficult when that adrenaline dumps.
And your memory is interlocked with that too. You're not gonna. Whereas normally you might remember.
Stupid microphone again.
Whereas normally you might remember really fine details about somebody. When you're in a situation like that, you might remember that the guy had glasses, but you're not going to know what kind of glasses they were or what color they were. You might remember he had a hat on. You're going to remember bigger details. You just can't remember the finer details. That's what he was talking about with all that. I remember this, but I don't remember all the details for this because it's out here and it's kind of out on that outer rim of your memory, and that's where a lot of these sightings come in, especially when you see something like that and for the first time, and it hits your system, and that you get an adrenaline dump from that.
Mm-hmm.
And some people deal with it better than others. Some people, it's just things just go through that window.
I've seen guys go through critical incidents and be just right as the mills. They'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, this is what happened. Da, 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 da. And then I've seen guys go through a critical incident that just fall apart for 24 to 72 hours.
Yep.
But I get that report that I read. I find that one highly believable because the guy's questioning it. The guy he's not sure what he's seeing. He reported it, and his descriptions are very good. And again, guys who've been in the military and guys who've been in law enforcement are keyed to look for certain details. He couldn't tell you. He didn't even try to estimate the height because at that range, it's anybody's guessing game. I mean, you could see a guy that's straight at deadwood 6 foot tall, and you see him at a range of 150 feet, and you're going to guess anywhere from 5'5" to 6'6". I mean, it becomes subjective at that kind of range unless you've got something that as an established scale. So it becomes very difficult to estimate height. And I'm really glad he didn't, just say it was 13 feet tall or something like that, because at a distance, it's very hard to gauge height.
Yeah.
Another thing I find really good about that. Um, William Bedard says, "Da, where'd you get that shirt?" Actually, this shirt was a gift from Robert Miller, Sentinel in the books. He when I started doing the Embrace the Suck, as Margolin's catchphrase in the codename Wild Hunt, he found this shirt and at a store where he lives. It's a grunt style. And he texted me one day. He's like, "Hey, what size shirt you wear?" I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Never mind, it'll be a surprise." And he bought this and sent it to me. So if you go to Grunt Styles website, there's several different colors and a couple of different styles. But not a sponsor. So, but I do like Grunt Style T-shirts. They're pretty badass.
Yep.
Pegleg Kenny 59 says, "Howdy, folks from Southeast Georgia. Hey, thank you for joining us."
Down around my area.
Billy Mitchum says, "I heard you tend to get diarrhea of the mouth afterwards or after the adrenaline dump." Also, I have been accused of that. I've been accused of just going into a string of expletives and just burning off that excess adrenaline, and then calming down. You got to burn that off before you sit down and try to write your report, because typing is a foreign language when you still jacked from that adrenaline. You're like, I can't do this right now.
Yeah.
Of course, I tend to get diarrhea of the mouth on a good day.
I think there's probably most of us on the show that can be accused of that,
though. Hey, Ryan's in the house. He says, "Oh, Mogollon Monster, my neck of the woods." Absolutely. Hey, if you want to jump on, Ryan, you're welcome to. You and World Bigfoot, Duke. Guys, just shoot me a message on Facebook if you guys want to jump in, and I'll send you the link. Be happy to. So, Ryan and Duke, both of you, either of you guys, shoot me a message on Facebook, and I'll shoot you a link if you guys want to jump in. But the Mogollon area, Mogollon Rim, it's just such a vast area, and there's so many different trails. But the sightings that are coming out of that area are pretty consistent. Tend to mostly be dark colored or reddish brown. I even heard one of somebody spotted a white one, but it was only one story, and I don't know if there's any credibility to it. It's hard to say with any stories. You're taking the story at face value on any of them, because none of us worked there, so we can't really say with a degree of certainty, this story's real, this story's real, this story's fake. We can't do that. We can't make that judgment call because none of us were there. So, we've got to examine these stories and look for consistent details. And, there's some red flags, like Bigfoot came into camp and he, shotgunned a Monster Energy, and he kind of posed for pictures with me, but I promised I wouldn't post them on Facebook. Those are the kind of stories you're like, oh, yeah, I don't know about this one.
I gave him a bag of Jack Link's jerky, and he's...
There's some stories you can look at and go, all right, now this one kind of, I'm a little worried about this one, but okay, Ryan, no problem. He says, I might jump on it a little bit, fighting a sinus issue right now. Hey, grab some sinus medicine and shoot me a message if you want to jump in. Duke, same with you, brother. Shoot me a Facebook message, and or send me an email, one of the two. I'll open my email just in case. So give me just a second to get that. Shoot that to the DA Roberts at daroberts.net email. Let me open my email there.
So how much of the obviously you said you got some of the story from Uncanny Valley from that book. What else did you get? Because obviously most people in the chat are fans and have read the book. So we were talking about this earlier before we went on. To me, this thing sounds more like a combination of the ones from the first Call of the Wild book and just what you would call your standard run-of-the-mill Bigfoot, slight tool users and things like that. Was there anything in any of the things that you read that led you to believe that they were tool users, or is that...
Well, I just kind of give them... Did I freeze up?
Yep, your picture froze.
Well,
I
next
can
time
hear
we
you,
lose
but
the connection, maybe I'll maybe it'll. I don't know. This is a brand new computer. Why is it freezing up?
I think that might just be a connection type issue.
Well, I will keep talking as long as you guys don't mind my weird pose there. Oh, what was I saying?
I'd ask you if something led you to. I think I froze up now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can still hear you. What the heck, man? Holy crap!
Are we getting too
This
close to something?
it's weird when we start getting on certain subjects that we start having technical issues. Because I mean, everything else, all my other pages are working just fine. I mean, I'm still getting messages on Facebook.
Yeah, the chat's still rolling. I'm still seeing that.
So what the hell is going on? Yeah, we are completely for both of us frozen in place. I just looked over to the YouTube channel.
Yep, that's what I was just about to say. I can see it on the YouTube channel. We're froze too.
Well, I guess we'll just keep talking as long as as long as it lasts.
Yeah.
Um,
So anyway, did you gain any, or did you get anything that led you to believe, or was that just kind of like something you did like as a embellishment for the writing for the story?
well, one, it needed it for the story, but two, I also kind of gave them the benefit of the doubt because they were doing things like chasing off fishermen. Uh, all of them have been known to like the tree knock sounds or throw rocks. So I think any of them, if they because they got hands, I assume they've got basic tool use, like they can pick up a stick and use it as a club or throw a rock at something. They've got thumbs. So I think it's not a big leap of the imagination that they could be at least limited tool users. But what intrigued me was the number of Dogman sightings in southern Arizona. So that's really what led me to pit them against one another in the book.
Yeah, that was I like that dynamic, and it not just being Dogman, but adding the other stuff into it that you added into it. But that
I think I lost you, Robbie. Hello? Are we still on the air? I hope so. Robbie, can you hear me? Calvin Bowling was saying I can't wait for this book. That book is out. It's The Nightmare Hunter. Um, John Doe says, "Da, even certain reptiles are tool users." Uh, I own one, and all known primates are, to say nothing of it, something more advanced. Yeah, I don't think it's much of a stretch of imagination to think that they're tool users. Nerd Babble says we can hear you, Da, but not Robbie. Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, well, you got my audio still on. I'm gonna send a message to Robbie and tell him he's completely froze up, uh, and hopefully we can get that fixed. Hey, Rob, can you hear me, brother? Okay, he's backing out and coming back in. And when he gets back in, if he's freed up, then I'll reset my browser and see if that helps. I have no idea what's causing this. My internet connection is good. That's one of the things I always do before a show is I run an internet speed test on speedtest.net. And we've got fiber internet, so there should not be any issues. I was still getting high 900s, so I know it's not my internet connection. There's something weird going on, and I don't know if it's Restream or if it's the internet connection. But if it keeps it up, I'm going to have to look into other options because I don't know why this is doing this. On pretty much every show, we have some sort of weird technical glitch. So Robbie's resetting his system and coming back in, but hopefully he'll be back on in a second. If you guys go to there's a cryptid wiki. I don't know if you guys are aware of this channel, but it's cryptids cryptidz.fandom.com. They have a lot of really good cryptid information on that website. And sometimes when I'm looking for stuff, especially obscure stuff, I can find stuff on there that it's sometimes hard to find in other places. But they define that the physical characteristics of the Mogollon Monster. It's reported to be a bipedal humanoid over 7 feet tall with inhuman strength and large eyes that some claim to be wild and red. Its body is said to be covered with long black or reddish brown hair, with the exclusion of the chest, face, hands, and feet. Reports claim that it has a strong and pungent odor, described as that of a dead fish, a skunk, and bad body odor, decaying peat moss, and the musk of a snapping turtle. Well, that's rather descriptive. That's pretty funny, actually. But hey, William, thank you again for the super chat. Who says, we're going to see if I can be a guest. Not sure now. Dude, I'd love to have you on. You want to come on sometime and talk Bigfoot? Ryan over at Monster Radio says, spoiler, the Mogollon Monster is nothing more than our friend at Mogollon Monster, minus his bandana. That's funny. Brandy says, come back to StreamYard. I may have to. I don't know why I'm having so much issues with this. Hopefully Robbie can get back in, because I'm afraid if I try to reset my browser, I will lose the entire thing. So let me see if I can knock this loose. Don't know if it's going to work. Hopefully Robbie will be back in a second. He says he's working on it. Let me see. Oh yeah, I'm afraid to reset the browser. It'll probably kick me off if I do. This is so bizarre. We normally don't have this kind of issue. Can y'all still hear me? Are we still on? Hopefully we're still online. Yeah, it looks like according to my browser we are. You guys can still hear me? Oh, awesome. You guys can still hear me. Brandy, if one of y'all want to jump in, since Robbie can't seem to make it back on, if one of you guys want to jump on, shoot me an email, or shoot me a Facebook message, and I'll send you a link. I've got a $5 super chat from Norman Meredith. Hey, Norm, thanks, brother. Appreciate you, brother. Chairman Meow says, "Yep, you're just frozen." Okay, I will not do anything that will kick off the show. But I was going to show something. Well, yeah, since we're froze up, you guys can't see me anyway. This seems like a good opportunity to talk about Scallywag Tactical. Scallywag Tactical is a veteran-owned company. They make some of the best blades I've ever used. They're our official affiliate. That's the link there. It's been posted in the chat a couple of times. But Scallywag Tactical, I featured them in my books because they just make some outstanding blades. I've got a pretty big collection of their stuff, and I've yet to get one that I didn't like. Just good quality, solid, usable blades. But trust me, if you're going to be doing anything woodsy or heck in everyday life, that you probably a good idea to have some form of pocket knife on you, from whether it's from opening boxes or cutting twine or cutting a seat belt if you're stuck in a car after a car wreck. A knife is always a good thing to have on hand. And if you go over to Scallywag Tactical, you can use discount code DARoberts10 for 10% off. And if you follow that link, it will give us direct credit here on the show, and we do get perks for using that link. So hopefully you guys will go over and check out scallywagtactical.com. If you use the link there for your purchases and discount code DARoberts10, then you get 10% off your entire order. So hope you guys will go check them out. Robbie, since you're back, I'm going to try refreshing my browser. I didn't want to do it until you made it back.
It completely locked mine up. I couldn't even turn the computer off. I had to sit there and hold the power button for it to finally go off.
Everything on my system is working fine except Restream. So I don't know what the hell's going on. It's really weird to have a browser lock up when the other tabs are not locked up. All right, I'm going to reset my browser. I will be right back.
All right, so guess it's up to me to keep it running now. So somebody tell me what he's talking about, or he's back good. Thank you.
I'm still frozen, however. I may be gone for for longer than that. I think what it is I think OBS crashed. So I'm gonna have to shut every browser down and restart OBS. So give me about can you dazzle them with bullshit for about 2 minutes?
Yeah, I got it. Take over.
All
No,
right,
like
I
Steve
will
said, no
be
pressure.
I will be right back.
All right.
So give me just a couple minutes, and hopefully I'll have everything back up and running. So be right back.
All right. All right. So, Sue, I slayed the lizard man. My computer they tried to take it over, but luckily I was able to pull the computer back and get it saved. I had to wipe all the lizard man slobber off of it, but we're good. So anyway, where was when I froze up? What was DA talking about? Somebody let me know. Krista, maybe one of y'all can let me know what he was speaking about when I froze up. Oh, he was just talking about the Scallywag tactical blades. Yeah, we got the sponsorship on that. That's good. So I actually got one of their knives, probably one of the better ones that I've ever had. It's the Orca. I believe it's like $12 right now until they. Hey William, how you doing? Until they get rid of it, I think they're discontinuing it. But anyway, get back to some of these sightings that we were talking about from the area in Arizona. I didn't realize there was a lot of Dogman sightings in that area as well. But the book that DA based a lot of this stuff on, if none of y'all have if none of y'all read Uncanny Valley, it was based out in that same area, and he based it on a book that or one of the books from a lady who said that one of them tried to grab her, and that's kind of where he started the story and took it from, but it evolved. It evolved. Y'all read DA's books, you know how it goes. There was a lot more crazy stuff in it than just Dogman and Bigfoot. But a lot of the sightings from that area that I read were the same type thing of them either trying to grab people or coming up really close to them, and people thought they might be about to try to abduct them. Like he was talking about the fishermen at night getting scared off, and the call blasting from the two guys with that other the siren sound or whatever. So yeah, we've talked about this plenty of times before. I think that a lot of these sightings are on the rise. Maybe one because of some of the things we talked about in CERN and the slider or the particle slider and all that stuff. That's probably got something to do with it. But I think a lot of it's got to do with there are more people in the woods now. It's no longer a taboo to be a hunter. You see people hunt nowadays that, 15, 20 years ago, they would have never been out in the woods hunting or just out hiking and things like that. It's more of a prevalent thing to do nowadays. And I think a lot of that, when we had the big thing with COVID and things, people were out of the woods and things moved further and closer in on the territories that we were in before. And I think that, we've just had the perfect storm of all these things coming together at one time. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot more of these creatures and a lot more of these sightings that are just coming to light now that, 15, 20 years ago didn't happen. And I think it's just a matter of time before some of this stuff breaks, because we've talked about it. We know the government has, Toom said let me bring this up. Said he saw the call blasting video before it disappeared. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that, because it sounds like that was a pretty intense situation. And I think that's, you've seen this stuff before, and it was kind of hit or miss. You might get a response, you might not. it seems like I've heard a lot of stories now of people doing call blasts and getting these aggressive responses. And like I said, it's just that perfect storm of all this stuff coming together at one time, and these sightings are going up, not only of Bigfoot, but of Dogman and all these other types of cryptids. And, you know, it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, before there's either a body on the slab or somebody has a video of something, you know, bad happening to somebody else, and it's going to have to be brought to light. And, you know, the government's either going to have to pony up and say, yeah, we knew about it, or, oh, you know, I didn't know about that. Sorry. So let's see. Try to catch up with the comments. The Tim said, lost it. Where'd it go? If you haven't already, make sure. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Your other post there, Tombstone. But he said it was a pretty crazy experience, or a pretty crazy video. I think Lene said that she looked it up. It didn't have the video on the one she looked up. If anybody could find that video out there or has a link to it, you know, send that to DA so we could get that up on the website. I'm sure everybody would like to hear that or see that video. Let's see. Yep, here we go. Been waiting for it all night, Northwoods. Would that be what she would call the siren call, Northwoods? Hey, he's back.
Sorry, brother. Oh,
It's all right. I didn't run too many people off, I don't guess, so I guess we're all right.
I think it's OBS. I think my OBS keeps crashing, and I'm not sure why. So I'm gonna have tech support. My youngest son Noah look at it once the show is over. I told Krista I'd send her a link, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Sorry, folks. Yeah, it wouldn't be one of our shows if we didn't have all kinds of freaking glitches. But hey, here we are. Made it back.
Satellites.
Yeah, I don't know what. This is a brand new computer. It shouldn't be doing this. That's a fresh install of OBS. This computer is 2 weeks old.
We were getting too close to something.
I don't know why this would be crashing like that. And the weird thing is, it was only the restream window that was crashed. Every other, I had like 6 other tabs open, and they were all fine. Lene says, yay, DA escaped the lizard folks too. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I had to pull my computer back out of their mouth, but I escaped them.
Well, what were you guys discussing while I was gone?
I was just running my mouth about how I thought this was the reason sightings are going up is because it's a perfect storm of all the elements that we've all talked about before. The thing in CERN, and then the great blackout or Black Plague of the 21st century, and more people being in the woods, and it's just a perfect storm of all this stuff. And I think that's a lot of the reason why a lot of these sightings are going up. Hey, Krista.
Hey, how are you, Robbie?
Would have been better if you'd been on about 2 minutes ago, but other than that,
I was watching. I had your emotional support.
Lene says, DAX Machina, is there any chance you had a loose nut behind the keyboard? Yeah, you just might. With me, you never know.
You meant
Monster Radio says, interesting little tidbit about the Mogollon Monster. The first sightings came from a Boy Scout troop. I didn't know that. That is awesome. Krista, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Not too bad, other than some technical issues that seem to be plaguing us.
I've seen that. No idea what's going on, huh?
I can't explain it. I mean, it's not like I've got a corrupted version of OBS. It's worked fine in the past.
That's weird.
I don't know if it's needing to update or what, but it was acting crazy.
Yeah, you both just froze up for a while, and then Robbie left, and then you were froze, but we could hear you. And
that's weird that it happened to both of us
at the same time.
Yeah.
We're almost at the same time because you froze and I froze like a minute after you did.
We can't say it's an internet connection issue because it happened to both of us at almost the same time.
Right.
We're half a country apart.
Right.
Is it Restream? Maybe. Is it something interfering with Restream? Definitely. Can't say what, but
Right.
Monster Radio. Ryan says, "Yep, the initial reports came from a troop who were allegedly chased by the monster while out doing their camp-out trial for badges. The kids were terrified." Well, I would imagine they were.
I just got a message and someone says that your internet's being messed with by the government. Could be.
It wouldn't shock me. There are a number of shows that are having issues these days. And it's crazy that it's only affecting Cryptid podcasts.
We talked about that last show, remember?
Yep.
Because somebody on the stream last time said that there are other shows that they watch that are getting the same thing.
Yep. And the fact that you both went off, not just one of you froze, but both of you. Who knows?
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for the super chat. You are awesome. Brandy says, "I would have come on, but these jammies aren't video ready, looking a little crazy." How do you know I'm not wearing pajama bottoms under this t-shirt? I've got my pajamas on. It's too chilly outside to be wearing something not warm.
I did run in the bathroom and brush my hair real quick before. That's as good as I got.
Me too.
Ricky Sanders says, "So I live in Arizona and we got cryptids in all four directions. There are a lot of Dogmen and UFO reports in the lands between Phoenix and the California border at Chino and Quartzsite, also the east side of Globe." The U.S. Border Patrol has reported seeing Dogmen along the border between Arizona and New Mexico. Basically, all along the U.S.-Mexico border, Border Patrol have reported seeing these things traveling in packs. And there's even one report out of somewhere in southern Arizona, I have to look again, where a group of drug smugglers shot at one, and their entire group was taken apart by a pack of Dogmen. When the Border Patrol found the drug smugglers, they just found pieces scattered all over an area, and lots of spent shell casings.
So that was a drug interdiction Dogman pack?
Pretty much, yeah. DEA is now using Dogmen. Monster Radio says, "I'm in Benson." Ryan says he's in Benson. We have a lot of crazy stuff here, including a high number of Yee-Nautilus. The Navajo reservation's in the northeast corner of Arizona. There's a lot of weird stuff happens in and around that Navajo reservation, including, though, the one story we got from Jesus Payan, where they found a horse that had not been dead very long, that had one of its hind legs literally ripped off, and that was what killed it. Massive trauma from blood loss of losing its entire back leg.
That'll do it.
That is an incredible amount of strength to rip a horse's leg off.
Yeah, it's got to be something big too, because horse isn't just going to stand there; it's going to run, it's going to kick, and they're powerful. Mm-hmm. So,
that may have been what happened. It may have been chasing it, and it tried to kick it, and got a hold of the leg, and just pulled on it, tore it apart. Jesus Payan says also along one river that runs through the Navajo reservation, there's an entire section of houses along this one side of the river that are abandoned. And he said it was because they were getting harassed by Bigfoot creatures nightly, and the people just moved out, just left the houses sitting there. He said he could take you onto the reservation and show you the spot exactly where there's more than he said more than a dozen homes and a couple of trailer houses that people just up and moved out, grabbed their stuff and left because of nightly harassment from Bigfoot creatures. So you get into Arizona and New Mexico and these desert Sasquatch, they seem to be not necessarily as aggressive, but certainly more territorial. Along the Mogollon Rim, I didn't find a single account of someone being killed or hurt by one. But then again, dead men tend to tell no tales. And Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the map of the missing 411, and it looks like that one cluster is the one that's in Arizona. Looks like it's right near the Mogollon.
That's one we pulled up the other night, isn't it?
Yeah, if you look at that one large cluster in Arizona, that looks to me it's very close to the Mogollon Rim. So yeah, definitely there's a lot of reported missing people, missing 411 cases in that national park area. But again, dead men or people that go missing and are never found don't report aggressive attacks. So either these things aren't as aggressive as they are in some other parts of the country, or people just aren't getting away. I would lean toward the latter. I really would, simply because these things are very intelligent. They know they know the terrain, and we've had a couple of reports of lone hikers that were something tried to snatch them. One woman and another one was a young guy. And oddly enough, they were both on the same trail. I can't remember the name of the loop trail. I'd have to look at the map of the Mogollon Rim, but it was one of the primary big trails that lead right out of the main parking lot. It was the trail I used in the book, but I can't remember off the top of my head which trail it was. I'm sorry, I've written 27 books. I forget details. I got to go back. My wife makes fun of me all the time because if I'm writing something that is taking place that directly relates to something that happened in the past, I will go back, get that book out, and reread the entire book. So I've got the details fresh in my head. I don't rely on just my notes, because notes will tell me an event, but they won't tell me what the characters were doing reacting to that event. So I will go back and at least read that entire chapter or section. Randy wants to know what's in your sippy cup.
I have tea. It's not my sippy cup. It is a coffee cup, but it is hot tea.
I've got some Black Rifle coffee dark roast myself. Beyond Black.
Yep.
I
love the dark roast.
It's something that we've kind of talked about, with the homeless populations.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, is there a lot of, in that area of the Mogollon Rim, is there a lot of problem with a lot of homeless people in that area?
Probably not, because it's so far from it. The Mogollon is so far from any big towns. I wouldn't think there'd be a lot of homeless out there. Monster Radio, that's Ryan. He says, the desert itself is a great hunting ground, tons of hiding places, and unfortunately, a lot of people get lost in the desert. The here and the cold night will make them weak. Yeah, well, I think he means air. It's higher elevation. I know when I was a kid and we lived in northern New Mexico, we were at pretty high altitude, but we would drive to Denver, and I would be like, for the first few hours we were there until I got used to the thinner air. I mean, it was, it definitely makes a huge difference. Hey, Vault. He said, Vault of Nightmares is here. What's up, buddy? Thanks for joining us. Monster Radio says, oh, yes, we have a lot of vagrants in Arizona. Here in my town, they sleep in the washes and tunnels. Don't see why it would be any different there. What? Well, I don't live down there. I'll take your word for it. But that's a itinerant population. If one of them goes missing, law enforcement is not going to take notice. For one, the homeless people don't trust law enforcement to begin with. So if one of them goes missing, they're not going to tell us. And even if they did, law enforcement's going to be like, he doesn't have an address. These guys move around a lot. He probably just moved. They're not going to put a lot of energy in trying to find a guy that one doesn't want to be found in the first place, and two might have just taken a bus ticket and gone to Las Vegas or something.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing too. Like a lot of people, like that are.
We love you too, William.
Thanks, Nighthawk.
Thanks, William.
The thing is too, like a lot of these people that are homeless, they don't have loved ones to report them missing, and so sad, really.
If I remember correctly, there was a show I watched, and I want to say it was in New York, like New York City. Somebody was interviewing the underground population, and one of them said something about on some nights you would see something big and hairy sticking to the shadows walking through the tunnels. He said sometimes people go missing down here. I can't remember the name of the documentary I was watching. I've got to see if I can find that, but I remember that conversation. The guy was asking him, he's like, do you ever see anything weird down here? He's like, yeah, we see stuff weird down here all the time. He said, and people do go missing.
Mm-hmm.
Randy says homeless numbers are on the rise. That's true. And with a transitory population of illegal immigrants coming across the southern border. That's prime hunting territory for Bigfoot / Dogman in that area, because if there's a group of people that would go missing without anybody reporting them, that's going to be the ones, them and homeless.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely.
But I think that's when I was asking about that. That's what we called it, and not trying to make light of it, but it's like a mobile smorgasbord for these cryptids. If
it's easy pickings.
Yeah, that's why I was asking about that question. I think that's a because you hear it, they got to have a food source, and a lot of times we can be the food source for things like that. So
yeah, it's not uncommon. I mean, there are other animals in the animal kingdom that can and will eat people. Bears have done it. Crocodiles and alligators have done it for centuries. Then you've got other big carnivores like wolves, mountain lions, and those are just the ones we know of.
Or as the government says, dogs.
Yeah, wild dog attack.
Wild dog attack.
Why is it that every time we turn around, we're seeing another wild dog attack?
Right.
And then they talk about puncture wounds that they initially thought were knife wounds, and then they go, well, it's an unknown canine.
Right, exactly.
Okay, if it looks like a knife attack, like they've been stabbed multiple times, but the saliva samples you're getting coming back say unknown canine, why are you saying wild dog attack? Unknown canine it's not a species of canine we know, because we have every species of known canine in the database. So if it's coming back to something new and it's not even saying part this and part that, it's saying unknown canine, we've got a problem. That means there's a big carnivorous canine out there we don't know anything about, which, again, we've been talking about it forever. I believe it's Dogman.
Yep. And I'm with you, DA. You don't put unknown canine because there are no unknown canines if you're talking about a dog, because we know what they all are.
Nerd Babble says the homeless here take residence under a bridge by an old railway yard, which is lined by wooded area. They tell lots of stories. It's funny you bring that up, because Leon Howarth, who does the channel Do It Noel's Way, he's a Dogman researcher near Manchester, United Kingdom. He says that they found tons of evidence that Dogmen are using those cleared trackways along railroads as like an express highway to get from parts of the country to parts of the country, because people aren't allowed to go on railway land. Yet there are a lot of reports from railway workers who have seen these things darting into the woods as the train would pass. He said it's like a super highway for Dogmen.
Wow. I believe that.
It only makes sense they would do it here too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Three Beard says loves the shirt, DA. Thank you. I much appreciate that. It's kind of become a call sign. So I always love wearing this shirt. I've actually get stopped by people that are like, you were in the military, weren't you? I'm like, yeah, how'd you know?
And you got a lot of people on here tonight.
Heck yeah, we doing pretty good in the chat.
All right, now people, since I'm on here and not chatting, go and like and subscribe and hit the bell icon that I've been repeating all night.
Absolutely. And make sure you go over to Blondes and Booze and give them a like, share, and subscribe too.
Appreciate that.
Not a problem. Lee Baisley says unknown dog killed elderly retired school teacher in Belhaven, North Carolina around 2010. I just read the article on that the other day. And I believe it was the sheriff of that county came forth and said, this is not a known animal. We don't know what this is. And it's bad when things are coming forth like that. And like in the case that up here in Missouri with the Amazon driver.
Yep.
Not going to talk out of school and say who it was that told me, but I know a person that knows a person that worked for the coroner's office, and the guy at the morgue is like, I've never seen a body this torn up in my life.
Yep. True story.
Couple of dogs, couple of pet dogs didn't do that.
Right.
Yet the deputies on scene killed both dogs. and we have not heard anything. And it's been a few weeks. We've not
Yep.
heard anything about the results of the contents of those dogs' stomach.
Nope.
So that leads me to
They're
believe
quiet.
they're not going to
They
say
probably
because the
won't.
dog. Yeah, you can't miss that much tissue without the dogs eating it.
Yeah.
If it was a dog attack, the dogs would have consumed that tissue, and they have not come forward and said anything about the contents of this dog's stomach. So to me, that just right there just says that it wasn't the dogs, because now they're hoping it'll just go away.
Right, because they would put it out there that it was the dogs, and the dogs had this in their
Right.
stomach. You know, absolutely. I don't believe it was the dogs myself. I actually drove through there. I went down that road. I went to Aaron's house here a couple weeks ago, and on my way home, I drove through there just to kind of get an idea of what it was like and the grounds. And I mean, you definitely see it's pretty heavily wooded, and you know, I don't know which house exactly it happened at, but I did drive down the road, and definitely easily for any type of cryptid to live in that area.
Yeah. Another interesting part about that is, and again, this applies to the Mogollon area. And again, I will bring that map back up so we can talk about it again. This is the missing 411 overlaid side by side with the map of cave systems. If you look at the one in Arizona, you can down there in the lower quadrant, if you know your geography, you can spot Arizona pretty easy without it being labeled. But if you look toward the center of Arizona, we've got a cluster, a rather large cluster, and that is very close to the Mogollon Rim. That may actually be the Mogollon Rim. I can't tell without being able to zoom in closer on the map, but it looks very much like very much like it's an issue that is in or around the Mogollon Rim. Ricky Sanders says, "Hey DA, can you talk more about your book Uncanny Valley? Robbie mentioned how it was based on the Mogollon Rim monster reports you've collected. I'm curious about the lady story Robbie mentioned." Yeah, the book is called The Nightmare Hunter. It fits right in with the timeline of all my other books, and each of the series that I deal with cryptids has a slightly different tempo, a slightly different pacing to it. Because they're different perspectives. Like Codename Wild Hunt, it's a military perspective, so it's very action, it's very direct. They see a problem, they engage it. Of course, you've got the Apex Predator series, which are more Native American, and they take a more mystical, more thoughtful approach. It's not the military direct line. There's the enemy, go get it. I also deal more with the lore and Native American magic in the Apex Predator series. Which I have deep respect for, just absolute amazed by the lore there. And the Apex Predator series deals more along those lines of Native American magic, Native American lore dealing with these creatures. Then you've got Nightmare Hunter, which is kind of a modern take on the old Kolchak the Night Stalker. I kind of fancy myself a modern day Kolchak investigating weird crap and sometimes getting in over my head, which has happened. But the premise behind the Nightmare Hunter series is it's an internet reporter who goes out and investigates stuff like this. He first gets involved with cryptids, and it ties directly into the Apex Predator series, because in the second Apex Predator book, Blood Moon, I mentioned that while Gray Eagle was fighting a werewolf in downtown Eureka Springs, Arkansas, Gray Eagle made the comment, "This is going to wind up on YouTube," and it did. Multiple videos were shot and uploaded to YouTube. Well, the investigative reporter in the Nightmare Hunter, he gets a hold of one of those videos and he's looking at it and he goes, "This, I don't know, is this fake or not?" So he takes it to a special effects buddy and has him break the video down. And the special effects guy is like, "No, this is the real deal. I don't know where the hell you got this video, but this is not special effects. I can tell you right now, this is not got any of the characteristics of special effects. This was a single shot film. They shot this live." So at that point, he's like, "Okay, something real is going on down there." So he gets a report of something happened in the Mogollon Rim, goes out there and winds up getting in over his head. And the Mogollon story. I don't want to give away a lot of spoilers because I hope you go out and read the book. But it ties directly into not only the Apex Predator series, but it ties also directly into the Codename Wild Hunt series. Then, of course, you've got Lakeview Man, which ties into all three of them.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
So yeah, I do a lot of real world cryptid research to not only create situations, but behaviors for the books. So the Mogollon Rim, the Nightmare Hunter book, is it's well, let's just say it's based on some accounts, but I took it much farther than the accounts, and I looked at Dogman sightings in the area and started plotting what would happen if those two overlapped. So yeah, it does have some early basis in reality of people seeing things along the Mogollon Rim, but from there it becomes a more it's a book of fiction. So all my books are fiction so far. I do plan on doing a nonfiction book. Ryan Paul Tremblay and I have been talking about doing a Bigfoot around the world book that we're gonna put out this nonfiction. So hopefully that'll be coming in the near future. But a lot of the real world cryptid research goes into writing these books. So while they are fiction stories, they do also have some basis in reality. So hopefully you guys will check those out. I think you'll like Nightmare Hunter. Hey, William gave us a super chat. That's awesome. Thanks, William. Thank you, brother. This is computer technician bill payment. Well, I'll put my son on that because he's my computer technician.
Noah, here's $2.
Yeah, he's the. I'll just buy him a soda. David Weiss says all the stories overlap eventually. You're absolutely correct.
Yep, he is right.
Yep.
Don't mean to go out there on a limb, but just not only the stories overlap, but I think they're all kind of with the paranormal, the cryptids, the UFOs. I think they're all related. They all overlap.
I think they do.
In my opinion.
Yep.
Well, like the night we were up there on the Big River Horse Ranch, we had things that were going on we couldn't explain, and then the picture that was taken of the trees above where you and Annette were sitting. There's shapes in those trees that we can't explain what they are. And the crazy part is if I still got them up there. Yeah, I still got actually I got them both. This is the what we got in the trees, and that's not a real good one. This is what is lightened up, and you can kind of see the faces that were the picture that was snapped. But here's the funny part. This is the same area. Those trees aren't big enough to support anything big, except for the one tree right there that's directly behind the bench. The other trees are not big enough to support anything.
Nope. And what's really crazy, to me, it all ties in. Jessica Potter, who, we have on our show a lot. She does a lot of readings, and she was just looking through the pictures. She was at the ranch that evening, just not down there. And she was looking through the pictures. And to me, I looked at them and I didn't see anything. And she was on her airplane ride home and seen it, and then reached out to the person who took the pictures. So that's pretty crazy, because it was almost like on a metaphysical sense that she's seen it. And then you confirmed her, Yeah.
When you first sent me that picture with the circle around it, and I'll put that one back up again. I looked at that and I was like, I can see something in that, but I can't really tell what it was. And really all I did was just lighten the image. And I don't know what that if you can see that one face almost dead center, low and left. I don't know if you can say that face is, I don't know.
Yeah,
almost going to say like a goblin or something. I don't know what it is. But those branches where it's at weren't big enough to support anything.
Right, exactly. And that red circle, that was the circle Jessica drew. I didn't draw that. I just forwarded it to you.
And like I said, all I did was lighten the image. And, that's the area. Well, no, that's not it. That's the area right there. And that tree is to the left of that one dark colored chair, to the right, of that dark colored chair. Those branches aren't big enough to support anything big.
Right. That's where I think it comes into. This is my own opinion. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but a lot of like the interdimensional type things,
I think it might have been.
How else do we explain that,
Yeah. Or
because there's something there.
Well, there's a dark presence that's been on that ranch before. I wonder if it was something like that. That was, just observing. or moving in on us. It was also the same direction you guys were getting stuff thrown at you from.
Yep.
I'd like to get up there and get a ladder up that tree just see if there's any claw marks up high where.
That would be a good place to check.
Yeah, I didn't even think to look at anything like that, when I was there here a couple weeks ago. So,
well, it would have been pretty high up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you say the limbs aren't big enough to support anything. So, I mean, it's that you got to eliminate all the possibilities before you can. So, what would be the other possibility if they're not on the limbs and something's hanging onto the tree itself? And if it is a physical creature hanging on the tree, there's going to be marks on the tree. If there's not marks on the tree, then there's some other kind of explanation.
There's been a lot of activity out there for years. It's close to Civil War battleground. There's been Native American arrowheads and stuff found out there. So
the Missouri River was a couple hundred yards away, and look how much tragedies happen along the Missouri River over the last couple hundred years.
Right, exactly.
I mean, from steamboats sinking to battles fought with between settlers and the native population. I mean, there's a lot of blood been shed in the Missouri River Valley.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. A lot of crazy stuff goes on out there. To me, I think, we're like the battlefields and the Native Americans and stuff like that. I think that grounds are all, they're all tainted.
I think so too. Big K Show says, here's a question for y'all. 9 out of 10 times when I see pictures taken, I don't see anything. When you're talking to an experiencer, eyewitness, how do you respectfully say, I don't see anything? I just wouldn't say it in a mean way. Just say, I'm sorry, I don't see it. And like you said, 9 out of 10 times, I don't see anything. In red, I'm a big proponent of don't send me red circle pictures because I 99% of the time I don't see anything. But I don't know if you're I'd be happy to send you that one if you wanted to take a closer look. But that one made me a believer because I can definitely see something in that image.
My thing is too when I don't see things in pictures. My philosophy is I wasn't there when it was taken. I didn't experience what was going on around. So who am I to say there's nothing there? So that's how I just scroll by,
Yeah. And most times I just don't comment. I mean, I just
don't
comment on it. But I have seen some really good photos people have shared as well. Just because it's a quote unquote blob squatch doesn't mean it can't be very, very intriguing picture. Because sometimes you can't see detail, but you can see shape. Daryl Denton sent me a message. He says, the guy out on the Santa Monica River that I've been talking to says the homeless and drug users have steel and chain link fences around their encampments to keep the dogmen from taking them. Since Krista knows about this.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, the guy reached out to Blondes and Booze and started telling me all this. I'm like, that is way out of my level. So, yeah. I don't know. He's got some pretty crazy stories.
Well, it makes sense.
Like I said, you were talking about the homeless disappearing and stuff. And that was one of the comments he had made, that the homeless and like the drug users and stuff were disappearing.
That's definitely a theory that I'm really starting to invest a lot more in. Because, we kind of, the first time we talked about it, DA, it was kind of like a passing thing. And then we started kind of more and more mentioning it. And the more we talk about it, the more ingrained it gets. That is just a very, very, and that's the thing, we've got more homeless people now than we've had in any other time. And that's another one of those perfect storm elements that's going into this stuff. I'd love to go investigate a place like that, this camp you're talking about. And
well, you guys should honestly speak with Daryl behind the scenes about that.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to reach out to him about that. One of the things about here in Springfield, I wrote about it in my Ragnarok Rising books. I talk about tunnels beneath the city of Springfield. They're there. I've been in them. There's also a network of caves under the city of Springfield. And there are a couple of entrances that I could take you right to here in Springfield. And it's generally during dry times when it's not flooding. There are a lot of homeless people down there. And I've gone back in there armed and got that hinky feeling like I'm about to get in over my head. It's time to get out of here. Looked at buddies and like, hey, I know I know you guys wanted to go farther, but I got a bad feeling. And they're like, yeah, we've been feeling it for a bit now. Let's get out of here. But I've only gone just scratched the surface of those tunnels here in Springfield.
I had no
Supposedly
idea
they go.
Springfield had tunnels. I had no
I can
idea.
take you right to them. I can take you right to them.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend going down there without people that are armed.
Really?
Yeah, I do not recommend it.
Wow.
It's a dangerous area.
Yeah. So that's another thing on the to-do list, Robbie, when you and Anthony, everybody comes up, to hit the tunnels in Springfield.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to explain to the Springfield City Police while we're walking down there with a couple of 458 SOCOMs.
Yeah, probably so.
SPDs may be like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Tracking training. We're doing urban tracking training.
That might work. That might work. Just show them our commission cards and go, yeah, we're just doing some urban tracking training.
Kidneys.
Kidneys. That's funny.
Have you ever been to the Pythian Castle?
I've been to it, but I've never been able to get in it. Every time we've gone over there to check it out, it's always been closed. But
Yeah.
I want to go in there and do like if the Wi-Fi is good enough, or if I've got enough cell signal, I want to either live stream or do some serious recording in there. But I've never been back in there to be able to do any investigating.
Well, if you're interested, I can reach out to Tamra. I know her.
I'm definitely interested.
And it's a crazy place.
Yeah, I would definitely like to go hang out in there and do some filming and EVP sessions and walk around. Monster Radio says Mogollon Monster is a Sasquatch that not enough take seriously. People assume it's all rocks and dirt here in Arizona. It isn't. The rim and the canyons here could support life easily. Yeah, there's enough heavy vegetation out there, and mountains and caves and water that you wouldn't think would be in the desert, where it could support a large population.
Mm-hmm. I could see that because I've never been out there, so that's what I assumed. So, he made a good point there.
I was going to say something, completely forgot what it was. Werewolf asked if anybody'd seen Meg tonight. I have not heard from Meg tonight. Hope she's feeling all right. I didn't even think about it. Let me check my email. She usually emails me if she's not going to be able to make it to a show. Let me see if I've got anything from her.
Actually, I do believe she is on. She timed someone out tonight.
Oh, okay.
On the chat. I'm looking at it now.
Okay. Well, I guess she is here.
Mm-hmm.
That's good because I don't see any emails from her.
Yeah.
I do get a ton of spam, though.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there are some people that think the Mogollon Monster isn't necessarily a type of Sasquatch. Some people reported it like a relic hominid, as opposed to a North American great ape. And that's kind of a subject for debate. Much can be said for all of Bigfoot in North America. Are they an ape? Are they a relic hominid? Are they something else? The thing is we don't know. Anybody's guess is as good as anyone else's. My personal opinion is, as being a cop for so many years, I'm a physical evidence guy, and I believe that it's just some sort of animal that we have yet to identify. Look at the billy ape. There are upright primates, other than humans. There are upright and aggressive primates. It's been proven. So it's not a stretch of the imagination. I think there's one in North America. All you got to do is look at Google Earth and do the satellite view as opposed to the sketch view, and just look at North America and look how much unbroken green there is on the North American continent. You can't tell me there's not enough wood line to support a large hominid. If you look at just the United States, there's enough unbroken green from East Texas to Minnesota along the Mississippi River Valley to support a large population of these creatures. So yeah, I was a firm believer before I started looking at concrete evidence like that. I
Right.
was a believer as a young man because of my experiences deer hunting, um, and it's one thing to have that kind of experience, but then to have it validated with thousands of other sightings, some of them similar to what I experienced.
Hmm.
Um, and then I talked to both Anthony and Robbie. They've had visual sightings of a Bigfoot creature, and it changed them. It changed the course of their opinion of the world. Uh, Anthony says he doesn't hunt anymore. He doesn't go out there hunting anymore. But if he does go out in the woods, he goes armed. Uh,
Hmm.
Robbie saw it as a kid, so that's a kind of a world shaking view for a kid. But to have that knowledge, and in Robbie's case, I can tell you, I guarantee you, other cops have made fun of him. You like putting stickers on your car and stuff.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
that feeling sucks when you saw something, you are right, and other people just treat you like you're an idiot. Um, I've had that personal experience. I mean, I've felt
Yeah.
that, and I hate it. Uh,
Hmm. As I told
and
you before, I know a Kansas City police officer who went and he had a lie detector test because the whole police force was giving him a hard time.
I
Just
was
the
really wanting to meet him too.
Yeah, I'll hook you up. He's a super
Okay.
nice guy, but he just, and I think that's awful, that he had to go to that extreme, and it clearly says, there was no lying found. And,
No
I mean,
deception.
he had it. Yeah, no deception found. And I mean, he brought it with him, and showed. I 110% believe that man.
Well, and then I've talked to hunters that like in Anthony's case, uh, Anthony was in a swamp buggy and saw something and put his rifle scope on it and was looking this thing in the face through a rifle scope. He had his crosshairs on this thing, and he
Hmm.
couldn't take the shot because it looked too human. I've
Yeah.
talked to guys that were in deer stands here in Missouri who saw something moving and thought it might have been a buck and put their crosshairs on one, and several of those guys do not deer hunt to this day. They are done.
Hmm.
They packed their crap and they got out of the woods. They didn't go back. Uh,
Yeah.
the guy I talked to that I've mentioned before, who fell asleep in his deer stand and woke up to one tugging his lunchbox trying to get it away from him.
Hmm.
He was a lifelong deer hunter. Doesn't step foot in the woods anymore.
Yeah.
It changes people, and I hate to say it, but people who are such diehard skeptics that no evidence will ever convince. I wish they would see one,
Yeah. Me too.
because
I
at
agree.
that moment, everything they've ever believed, even stories from your parents when you were a kid saying there's no monster in the closet and there's nothing under your bed, all of that now suddenly comes into question because monsters are suddenly real.
Yeah. When I was a kid, my dad always lived out in the country, and I was always scared of the dark, and he used to tell me there's nothing out here that's going to hurt you. You go back to the city, that's where where you get hurt. Well, little did I know then, but I know now. It's like, man, my dad was throwing me out to the wolves.
We used to go camping when I was a
Didn't
kid.
even
I'd go
know it.
camping with my dad. And
Yeah.
I remember Dad saying, "There's nothing out here that's going to hurt you." And we would camp in the
Yep.
mountains in New Mexico and stuff. But I never saw once that we went camping that he didn't have a pistol and a rifle on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if there's nothing out here that's going to hurt us, why are you heavily armed?
Yeah.
I mean, he had a shotgun behind the seat, a 12 gauge shotgun loaded behind the seat, a lever action 30-30 where he could grab it, and a
Hmm.
pistol on his hip. Okay,
Yeah.
Dad, nothing out here is going to hurt us. What are you carrying a gun for?
Yeah. I don't mean to go back to people who witness these things and it's life changing, but a lot of them I've talked to, they get PTSD, and then to go and try to talk to, a counselor or somebody, about it to heal themselves. I mean, how many counselors out there really believe these people too? You know what I'm saying? It's just sad. It's a sad, vicious circle, really.
Yeah. And that's why, I think, shows like yours and the shows like ours, and there's a myriad of other shows out there that have an open forum like this where we talk about
Mhm.
these creatures, where you're free to share your experience, and nobody's going to say you're crackers. Nobody's going to say
Right.
your cornbread ain't done in the middle.
Right.
Because we're all right there with you. We want to share our own experiences, and we don't want people to think we're crazy because we're not.
Right. And there are so many credible people out there with experiences of, all kinds of cryptids, not just Bigfoot, and things that, I never even heard of a Dogman until 3 years ago. And I'm thinking, what the heck, are these people crazy? But then, I hear these experiences from these credible people, and it really, not everybody's lying, not everybody's looking for attention, so.
I can remember as a kid, when I was in my early to mid teens, me and some of my idiot buddies would go camping on a buddy's land, and I can remember times here in Missouri where we would hear howls that were not coyotes. We never had anything approach us, but it was obvious they weren't coyotes. I know coyote howls. We used to hunt coyotes. We used predator calls and call them in because there was a bounty on coyotes here in Missouri for the longest time because the population exploded.
Right.
And every once in a while, they'll still reinstate that bounty when the coyotes get out of hand and start taking livestock. But I've heard howls in the woods we couldn't explain. I grew up running around, stomping around the woods in Missouri. I know. I can tell you what type of owl it was. I'm not one of those guys when I hear something that's obviously an owl is going to go, it's a Bigfoot. And and unfortunately, we get that with a lot of people who've never really spent any time in the woods. They'll hear a sound they're not familiar with. And I can tell you for a fact, foxes can make some god awful noises when they want to. First time I heard a fox squall, I was like, "What in the hell was that?" And my dad's just cackling. He's like, "That's a fox." I'm like, "It sounded like a dang fox I ever heard."
Well, the first time I heard a buck snort, man, that freaked me out.
We were camping up in Rocky Mountain National, and I went to bed early. I was tired, and my buddies are like, "Doug, you got to get out of here. Get out of here." And I'm like, "What?" They're like, "We think there's Bigfoot out here." And I'm like, "Oh, God." So I crawl out of the tent and I listen and I hear elk bugling. I'm like, "Have you morons never heard an elk bugle?" They're like, "That's a Bigfoot." I'm like, "That's an elk, you idiot."
People just don't know,
Another thing you hear in the woods at night until you know what it is a bobcat screaming.
Or a screech owl.
Either one of those will scare the living daylights out of you the first time you hear it.
You're out in the woods by yourself at night, which I've done going out checking traps. You're out in the woods by yourself at night and you hear a screech owl, that'll make your blood run cold. I knew what it was.
I was on a call one night and lady said that she heard something behind her house, and I went out and I got pretty deep out in the woods. I didn't know that it was a bobcat, and I probably got within probably 100 feet of it, 150 feet, something like that. And it started screaming, and I thought something was coming after me. It's like a cross between a woman screaming and what you hear these ghosts and banshees sound like in the movies. I mean, it's.
I've never heard one live, but I've heard recordings, and it's pretty crazy.
Recordings don't do it justice.
Yeah.
Kay talks says, "I had my Sasquatch sighting as a teen with a friend. Glad she was there, but her husband won't allow her to back me up because he doesn't believe it. So crazy." That's not uncommon. You'll get people that, like in Fred from Alaska. Fred had a really violent encounter in the Alaskan wilderness, and his cousin and uncle that were there won't talk about it. So they won't back him up on it because they don't want to talk about it at all. So that's not uncommon. Chairman Meow says, "Or a mountain lion sound like a crying baby." I was out with a young officer one time at a call, and we were out in the butt crack of nowhere, and we heard a mountain lion, and he cleared leather. He's like, "What in the hell was that?" I'm like, "It's a mountain lion. Put your gun away." Yeah. He's like, "Aren't we afraid it's going to kill us?" I'm like, "It wasn't close, man. If you see me pull my gun, then get worried."
Yep, exactly.
I said, "If it gets any closer, I'm not going to worry about my pistol. I'm going to go get my rifle out of the car."
Yep. I didn't realize
says, "Did you go to Pucker Factor 10, Robbie?"
Yeah, I'm answering him right now.
Monster Radio says, "Dogman howls will definitely cause an involuntary and messy reaction also." Tombstone says, "I hear a koala at night LOL, it will give most a code brown, not knowing what it is. If you're unfamiliar with what the sounds that the
Mhm.
wildlife in your area can make, it can scare the crap out of you. And I'm not saying that explains cryptid sightings, because I'm not saying that at all. When people see a cryptid, you know, they know that's not, a mountain lion. You see an upright walking hominid covered with black hair walking through the trees, and it's 7 or 8 feet tall. That's not a mountain lion. It's also not a black bear walking on its hind legs. And I can tell the difference at range between a bear and a person. It's easy to tell. And
Mhm.
even if it's a person wearing a ghillie suit, they don't move the same. Black bear on their hind legs, well, one, they don't walk very far on their hind legs, and two, it's kind of more of an ungainly walk. They're not really built for it. But you can tell the fluidity of something that is used to walking on its hind legs.
Right.
So yeah, I believe people, but one thing, if you're gonna especially doing overnight investigations in a wooded area, uh, get familiar with the animals in your area. Even if you're new to being out in the woods, you can still develop an ear for what's around you. Just do a search on indigenous animals to your area. If you've got mountain lions, if you've got screech owls, if you've got barred owls, you've got barn owls. They're all different species and they all make different noise. And it's easy to go on YouTube and just Google barred owl cry or screech owl
Mhm.
cry. And you can find recordings of them. Now, granted, they're going to sound much more alive when you hear it out in the woods. It's going to have a certain pitch and tone to it that recordings just don't do justice, but you can recognize it for what it is. Shriek owls will scare the living crap out of you, especially if you're in a graveyard in the middle of the night and you
Mhm.
hear a screech owl. That'll give you an oh shit moment till the rational part of your brain kicks in and says, that was a screech owl, dumbass, quit running. Uh, no, not saying that happened to me, but it kind of happened to me. But let's just say I got out of that graveyard pretty fast. Um, David Bice says, DA, it was funny at Lexington when the coyotes started calling and people started saying they heard Bigfoot. Yeah, again, and it's not a slight on anyone. It's just, it's easy to mistake something for something else if you're not
Yep.
familiar with the calls. So if you're going to be doing any cryptid hunting, Dogman, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, whatever it is, there are some places that have more credible sounds than others, but you can still find, credible, what I believe to be credible recordings, especially the Sierra sounds. Ron Moorhead's
Mhm.
Sierra sounds. You can listen to those on YouTube,
Yep.
and remember, even though you think it sounds like a couple of guys, caterwauling back and forth, it was analyzed by the Navy cryptolinguists, and they said that that it exhibited qualities of a language. They didn't know what it was saying. It exhibited qualities of a language, and it had pitches, peaks, and valleys both above and below what the human voice box is capable of producing. So that alone tells me it's a language, and it's in a range we can't reproduce. That's
Yeah.
not a bear. That's not an owl. It's a
Right.
language, something capable of making language with vocal cords beyond ours. That right there
Mhm.
rules out it being a hoax.
Yep. Yep. I definitely believe those are legit. I've heard them.
Yeah.
Monster Radio says the Ohio howl is one of the best sounds ever. And that one, if you put you get noise canceling headphones, and you put on the Ohio howl, close your eyes. You will get chills up and down your spine listening to that. I know, because I have. I put that in and put it on loop and just listen to that howl over and over. Yeah, that sounds terrifying. And I'm telling you, if I heard that in the woods, it would be one of those moments.
Right.
Charging handle would be pulled.
Look at that.
Look at the time.
It's time to
Uh,
be anywhere else but here.
Steve Penn says, had a pack of coyotes at the edge of a field where I was parked, running traffic one night. When they bowled, I rolled up my windows. Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Mhm.
even coyotes. It's a scary sound if you're not accustomed to it.
Yeah.
Um, Ashley Hilt says Ron Moorhead's a great guy too. I recommend speaking with him. You get the chance. We had Ron on the show about a year ago. Great dude. I need to get him back on. Just an absolute solid guy.
Mhm.
Super nice. Just was absolutely 100% willing to answer any stupid question we threw at him, and just really solid dude. And I think, uh, as far as evidence goes, I think Ron Moorhead's Sierra sounds are the Patterson Gimlin of audio.
Yeah.
They're beyond a reproach. I mean, they've been trying for what 50, almost 60
Right.
years
Yeah.
to
To
debunk the Patterson
Mhm.
Gimlin film, and they haven't been able to.
Right. I would agree with
Well,
you on that. Those
Well,
are good sounds.
that whole story of the Sierra sounds is fascinating anyway. The story behind the sounds.
Ricky Sanders says, DA, do you have a list of the best, most haunting cryptid sounds recordings out there? There are a lot. But the best ones I can give you off the top of my head is definitely listening to Ron Moorhead's Sierra sounds.
Mhm.
Those are worth a listen. And if you go to Ron Moorhead's website, you can buy CDs, which are much better audio quality than the ones you're going to find on YouTube. You can buy CDs of the recordings, and those are high quality reproductions that are much better than anything you're going to find on YouTube. But there's also the Ohio Howl. If you go to YouTube and Google Bigfoot screams or Dogman screams, you can find some good ones, and you can also find some ones you're like, I think that was a coyote. But just kind of use your best judgment. I mean, what I might think is legit, someone else might go, oh, that's completely bogus. So it's really up to individual interpretation. But the two best that I can come up with off the top of my head are definitely the Ohio Howl and the Sierra sounds, because those are just absolutely outstanding audios.
Mm-hmm.
Laura Simmons says, I listened to Ron Moorhead at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. Just an awesome guy. I mean, if you get a chance to sit and chat with him, he is just an open book. He's completely willing to share anything he's found. Monster Radio says, I've used the Sierra sounds as noise bait when out in the wild. I'm hoping to use them at Mount Lemmon in December. I played a predator call in LBL, and it struck me that I was unarmed and alone in LBL at night. And I'm like,
I had a predator call.
This might not be the best idea I've ever had.
Nope.
And
Did anybody know you were there?
Well, my wife, but I got no cell reception in LBL. There was no place in LBL I got cell reception. She was across the river. My wife and my middle son Nick, they were across the river at our condo in the Green Turtle Bay Resort. But I went into LBL by myself, and when I told her my experiences in LBL, she's like, "You're a moron for going in there by yourself." And in retrospect, probably not the smartest decision I ever made. And all I did was pull up like Wounded Rabbit call on my phone and just turned it up real loud. If I'd have had a really good quality Bluetooth speaker, no telling how far that would have traveled. But I got a response, and it didn't sound like a friendly response. And I'm like, I don't have a gun on. The only thing I've got's a knife, and I've got no way to call 911. Maybe this
How far were you from your car?
About 30 yards.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to agree with Annette. That was not smart.
If you go off the trace in LBL and you go down toward DeMumbers Bay, just before you get to the main camping area of DeMumbers Bay, there is a concrete bridge that crosses this wide slough. I was parked right by that concrete bridge, and then I walked back into the trees over by the shoreline and played that, and I'm like, wow, this is probably the dumbest thing I've ever done. So the next time I go back, I will be a little better prepared. But I want to try the predator call again.
That's one of those when you get the inner monologue of your narrator that says, it was at this moment the DA realized he screwed up.
This was a bad idea. But I just kind of kept my eye on the area where I'd heard the noise and kind of made my way back, like backing slowly and looking around. Got back to the van, got in, fired it up, and I'm like, well, look at the time to go back to the resort. I'm done for the night.
Did you see Tombstone's comment? And he said, you almost should have poured Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce on yourself doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just about that bad. The only other thing worse would have been a big neon sign that said free food.
Yep.
Buffet open.
Yeah, I painted a big target on myself that night and not even realized it. It was like 5 minutes into playing that Wounded Rabbit call that I'm like, hey, this is probably not a great idea.
Yeah.
It seemed like a great idea at the time. I'll just walk a little ways from the van and play this Wounded Predator call. And I could hear it echoing out over the water, which I knew was the perfect acoustic area to play it and make the sound go farther. But when I started hearing something moving in the trees, I'm like, Would you look at the time?
Right, exactly.
This was not the smartest idea I've ever had.
Right.
We've all had those moments.
Yeah.
Well,
Jumping out of the front door and chasing a bear on foot. Yeah, it just.
I've pulled some bonehead stunts in my day. Mrs. Chef Yoda says the new DA burger tastes just like chicken. Probably more like pork.
Right.
a lot of marbling on that meat. Big K Show says, and it was that night that DA magically lost 5 pounds in 30 seconds. Yeah, it was almost a brown pants moment. It was like the third or fourth rotation through playing that wounded rabbit call. It was like that little light bulb went on over my head, like bing. This was probably not a good idea, right? And I'm like, I don't have a gun on. I think I probably got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Mark Napier says long pig. Pretty much. Monster Radio says, Miss Chef Yoda, I can picture the Dogman singing to himself, hold the pickles, hold the lettuce.
Why does the McDonald's Big Mac song keep coming to my head? To all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese.
Yeah, that could have ended much worse than it did. So
Yeah.
when I go back, yeah, I'm not going to be unarmed, and 2, I'm not going to be alone. Probably not the brightest idea I've ever had.
Yeah.
Steve Penn says, DA, I'm in danger. Yeah. Again, yeah, I'm definitely in danger. It's not the smartest thing I've ever done, but yeah, at least I'm here to tell the tale. I could have easily been a missing 411.
Yeah.
We've been sitting here. And here's a story of this crazy author guy who went into the LBL and played a predator call.
I was wearing this hat, so it would have been one of those cases just like in Dark Moon. Like, well, we found the hat.
I had told Daryl when him and Martin Groves went to the LBL here a few weeks ago, I told him, I said, you guys are crazy. I said, but just know this, Blondes and Booze will do a remembrance show for you both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll keep the memory alive.
Right.
Monster Radio says Dogman would be sitting there telling his friends, missing 411. I didn't miss a single part of him. I hate it all. Well, I'm not exactly a tiny fellow, so he probably would have had to brought a couple of buddies to polish off all of me. They might have found a foot and the hat.
I'd have to be like Spoon from Dog Soldiers.
Thank you,
Not
William.
real-
Appreciate it. Now, what'd you say? Bobby?
I said I had to be like Spoon from Dog Soldiers.
Yeah.
I hope I give you
the. Tombstone says the ballad of the DA barbecue burger. But it's one of those things that if you're gonna be investigating things like this, yeah, and Krista can tell you at the paranormal, sometimes you open yourself up to crap you really didn't intend to.
Yep.
Like when you were inviting one to touch your leg, you could have opened yourself up to a bigger can of worms than you were expecting. And this is the dangers you face when you do stuff like this.
Yep.
That's why I say if you're going to go out cryptid hunting or paranormal, be prepared.
And do your homework.
Do your homework. Know what you're up against.
Yep. And I always recommend, going with someone who's experienced. I mean, me personally, I'm not going to go sit out there in the woods by myself, and try to find Dogmen or Bigfoot without someone who's experienced and been there and done that,
Take me and Daryl. We'll go.
Yep. That's plans in May.
Ashley Hilt says if you stare into the void, it tends to stare back. That's absolutely true. Something that Krista and I were talking about the last time I was on her show was what they referred to as hitchhikers. And when they mentioned it, I was like thinking actual hitchhikers because I hadn't really heard the term applied. The term hitchhiker. It basically means when a spirit or something malevolent like that attaches itself to you and follows you back.
Mm-hmm.
That happened to me my trip to LBL, and I think it happened at Nickel Cemetery. For a couple weeks after I got back, I would go to let the dog out because I'm a night owl. I stay up late riding and for years I was on overnights as a cop, and it just kind of the natural time I feel most awake. So I just tend to stay up. I mean, I don't go to bed till sun's practically coming up. But I would go out sometimes 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, let the dog out, and he refused to leave the light of the porch, and
Wow.
I could feel something like it was watching me from the backyard, from the
Mhm.
back of the yard. And at the time, the house directly behind us on the other side of the fence, and I've got a good sized backyard. If you go to my Facebook page, you see that picture I posted of all the leaves down. You can see how long my backyard is. It's not small. It's not like you can walk out and touch the fence 10 feet from the back porch. Now, me and my son go out there and play, throw baseballs, pretty far back and forth with
Mhm.
each other. So it's a good sized backyard. But I would feel like something was watching me from back of that part of the fence. And one time I thought I saw eye shine looking at me through some of the branches of the bush back there. But I'm like thinking maybe it's something like an owl or something sitting in that
Mhm.
bush. But that's a honeysuckle bush. Honeysuckle does not have the strength to support the weight of anything, even
Right.
unless it's a very small bird. So an owl would have crushed that down. It would have just collapsed it. You
Yeah.
can go down there and grab that bush and just push it over because it's honeysuckle. Uh,
Mhm.
and I love the smell of honeysuckle, especially in the summer. But that's a whole other story. But I kept feeling like something was watching me back there, and this went on for a few weeks. And a buddy of mine who is Navajo, him and I were talking, and he said, "Hey, I have a feeling something's attached to you. I dreamed about it." And I said,
Wow.
"Well, I think you're right." And I explained to him the situation. He goes, "Yeah." He said, "Something dark followed you from that cemetery." And he showed me how to do a blessing away and
Mhm.
cleanse the area. And I did. And since then, I haven't, it's not there all the time. But every once in a while, I'll go out there and I'll just feel it. And I live in a good sized city. I mean, Springfield, Missouri is the
Mhm.
third largest city in Missouri. If you count the bedroom communities that butt right up against the city limits, all told, I know this is nothing compared to you folks that live in like Chicago or L.A. or New York, but we're all the bedroom communities included, probably in the ballpark of 250,000 people.
Mhm.
250,000 people is not massive compared to big cities, but for this area, it's a pretty big city. And for me to sense something like that in town is one, it's bizarre, and two, there were nights I would go out there and it would just be dead quiet, almost like I couldn't hear what was beyond my area. There's crap going on in Springfield 24 hours a day. I live a quarter mile from a major interstate. So at night you can hear cars whizzing by. There's a railroad tracks about half a mile, not even half a mile, like it's like 3 or 4 blocks up the road. And all hours of the night we'll hear that train go by. But I would go back in my backyard, and it was just like I couldn't, almost like a veil around it. If that makes any sense, like
Yeah.
like I couldn't even hear the neighbors. Just absolutely dead quiet in my own yard. And I'd go out in the
Wow.
front and I could hear city sounds, but out in the backyard it was just dead quiet. And that was a really bizarre feeling. Uh,
Maybe you need to do another cleansing. Do
well,
your
I
house,
haven't,
your
haven't
yard,
haven't
and
noticed that dead silence in a while. Not since then.
yeah, it still wouldn't hurt to do another cleansing.
Probably
You
wouldn't.
know?
And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you and Aaron about is about not just for paranormal investigations but for cryptid, because I was in the LBL looking for cryptids. I didn't expect to deal with anything spiritual.
Right.
I want to know the better, talk to you, and I'll talk to William Nighthawk as well. I want to know the things I can do to make sure I don't have any hitchhikers in the future.
Right. Well, we can chat privately about it. I've heard of people who've been out, in the field looking for cryptids, and they will pray, in the name of Jesus, and then it's gone. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I've heard stories.
yeah, and I could try something like that too, but I don't know. I feel like in
I'm
the
a I'm
future
a yeah.
in the
I'm
future
a big
going for. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say I'm a big fan of iron. You know, just getting horseshoe nails and putting it out around your property and putting the right intentions out there. You know, as a way too to keep your property, and salt. You know, you could salt your property.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, if it is on a spiritual level, you know, you have it covered.
Yeah, I think from this point going forward, it's better to be forearmed, to be prepared for something like that. And I may never encounter it again, but it would be one of those things that if I'm going to run into something like that again, I definitely don't want it following me home. And I don't think it was any kind of cryptid that followed me home. I mean, we're 6 hours from LBL. So, I don't care how good a tracker you are, you're not going to track a car running down the interstate, you know, 400 miles. I don't think you're gonna track that. I don't care how good your sense of smell is. You're going to get overwhelmed by all the odors of all the other cars passing through that area at 70 plus miles an hour. And so I don't think anything physical tracked me home. I think something attached and followed me.
Yeah, I don't buy into the some of the one, and there again, like we always said, these are our personal opinions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that cryptids can do that either. I think you had something else, and
Yeah.
like you said, you weren't out there expecting that. So because you weren't expecting it and you weren't prepared for it, you probably were more susceptible to it to be able to attach to you. So I think that's actually a good idea, especially like when we go up there in May. That's something that we probably definitely need to know and be able to do, because if there is something dark up there like that, I'm sure none of us want anything attached like that to us and bringing it back with us.
Oh, absolutely. Steve Patton, DA Roberts driving 70 miles an hour. Right. Yeah, ask my wife. 70-ish. We'll
Ish.
just say 70-ish.
It's
Oh, yeah.
close to 70.
Yeah, after we go off the air, let me tell you a story about that that just happened recently. All I can say is thank God for the retired commission card.
Yep.
Ashley Hilton says exactly, Ricky. Intention is powerful regardless of what your beliefs are. Yeah, and I don't really ever go out with the intent of doing any harm. Again, I've said many times, and the NADP is a no-kill organization, and I don't believe that we necessarily need to kill one, uh, be it Bigfoot or Dogman, either one, to prove it to science. Now, of course, you're always going to have the naysayers, like like my joke about the British Museum. Oh no, that couldn't possibly exist. Until you drop a body on their table, they're like, "Oh, yes, it does. I get to name it." So yeah, there are going to be those that'll never accept anything but a body.
Yeah.
But I have no desire to be the guy that brings one in, just none. One, it would be a tremendous headache trying to go public with something like that when you would meet resistance in the form of a lot of pressure. Krista, everything okay?
Yeah, actually, I believe there was a crash out on the field here next to me. So there's a bunch of
Oh,
cars out
everybody
there.
okay?
I couldn't tell. There's a bunch of cars out there. I think they got it.
Ah, okay.
My daughter just got up and she's like, Mom, there's a bunch of people in the front yard. I'm like, what? So
Yeah, if there were a bunch of people in my front yard, I probably would have, me and Mr. Glock would have gone outside to see what was going on.
yeah, no, dumb me. I just opened the door.
Mogollon Monster says, I just spent a week in LBL camping, kind of uneventful. Yeah, it depends on which part you're in. There are some places where nothing will happen. In the southern part of LBL, there was a troop of Cub Scouts that got ran out of the area by Bigfoot. But in the central part of LBL, there are elk herds and buffalo herds, wood bison, that have been reintroduced. In that area, I hear people at camp don't really have any experiences. But I hear from numerous sources, camp at your own risk in the north end. Holy crap, we're over 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Holy moly. Um, we've gone down the cryptid rabbit hole pretty good. But as that applies to the Mogollon monster, I think there's more going on there than just a few handful of reports on the BFRO, because I know there are more sightings than what they have on there. I know there's a lot more going on out there, and we've had Ryan who lives in Arizona in the chat talking about it. There's plenty of habitat out there for these creatures. There are a good number of missing hikers along the Mogollon Trail. Plus, you've got itinerant populations, both homeless and undocumented people that are coming across the border. That is prime habitat for something big to be hunting people, especially at-risk populations that won't get reported. So God knows what the real number is. We've talked about the Nahanni Valley before, the valley up in Canada, where people that camp in the Nahanni Valley, they'll find their bodies missing their heads. Ironically, there is another valley down in southern Arizona, in the Superstition Mountains, where the same thing has happened over the last 20, 30 years. They found numerous bodies missing their heads. So how does that happen? I don't really think there's a group up there in that canyon chopping people's heads off with machetes. They just don't find the heads ever. And
that's odd.
it is really bizarre. And that's all right there in that, we got Dogman sightings. We got headless bodies that are being found. We've got, missing hikers along the Mogollon Rim. We've got multiple sightings of the Mogollon Monster. And all of this boils down to the potentiality for a very dangerous hunter in that area.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And it's enough to where you need to make sure you're careful. I've said it before a bunch of times. If you're gonna go out, doesn't matter if you're going hiking, camping, fishing, backpacking, cryptid hunting, paranormal investigating, take things to be prepared with. If you're going to be out in remote areas, take a medical kit. If you're going to be away from basic 911 services, take a medical kit. Because even minor injuries when you're off the beaten path can be fatal if you can't walk back. If you step between a rock and break an ankle and you don't have anybody that can carry you out, you could be dead before a rescue can get to you, especially if you're in areas where you don't get cell service. If you don't have a satellite phone, cell service may not be your friend. Have a plan. Let someone know where you're going. And again, these little basic survival techniques apply to whether you're cryptid hunting, paranormal hunting, or going out UFO hunting. Tell someone where you're going. Let them know when you're supposed to be back. That way, if you're overdue, someone knows not only where to look, but when to start. Take something to defend yourself. If you don't want to carry a firearm, I recommend it, but because you can run into things out there that aren't cryptid related that will hunt you and kill you. You've got bears, mountain lions, you have dangerous snakes, bobcats, wolves, coyotes. If you fall and break an ankle, coyotes will eat you. If you can't defend yourself, coyotes are going to eat you. You've got dangerous things out there, and of course the greater North American meth head. Take something to defend yourself. Bear spray is better than nothing. Make sure you've got some sort of blade, because one of the best all-around utility items that mankind ever created was the knife. So many situations where a good knife will save you. And that's a great segue for Scallywag Tactical. Makes some of the best blades I've ever used. And they're pocket knives. Some of those pocket knives are on sale for as little as $12. And I'm telling you, that is no better investment than having a good pocket knife. This one right here is one of the ones I carry pretty much every day. It holds an edge like nobody's business. I think it was like $22. Just an absolutely fantastic knife. Super freaking sharp. Holds its edge well. And I cut everything from twine to wire to opening boxes, cutting cardboard. I do everything with this knife, and just every once in a while I'll run it across a stone for a minute or two, and it keeps its edge like nobody else. You can get little honing stones like this for $5 on budk.com. These are great little tools. They've got both a steel side and a ceramic side. So if you've got, like if you've been cutting something heavy and you've got little chinks on your blade with little burrs, you can run through the steel side to smooth it out, then run it through the ceramic side, and you didn't take but 4 or 5 times, and that knife is wicked sharp. Get these over at Bud K. And again, Bud K is not a sponsor, but I've got a couple of those that were Where's the other one at? Here it is. I've got a couple of their little sharpeners, and both of these were like $5. And this one comes with a little key lanyard on it, where you can just clip that to a backpack and have it with you when you travel. A good knife sharpener is a valuable tool. Life straw. You can go on Amazon and buy these for 12 to $20, depending on the brand. Life straw is a filter that you can just carry, and some of them will fit in line in like a Camelback. You can put it in the line and filter the water directly. You can take those life straws and stick them straight into a river and drink safely, straight through the straw. They'll filter up to 100,000 gallons of water, and will even filter out some radioactive elements. Those life straws are worth their weight in gold. If you're anywhere where there's water and you need drinking water, it's much faster and safer than boiling it. Get one of those, throw it in your pack. I've got a couple of them. They are worth every penny. Again, just be safe. Take some basic survival equipment. Take something to defend yourself. If you don't have a sat phone and you're going to be in an area where you're pretty sure your cell phone's not going to work, make sure somebody knows when you're supposed to be back and when to start looking for you.
Yep.
These just basic, these basic survival techniques can help you come home. And there are a lot more things you can do if you really wanted to get in to be prepared. And I should probably do a couple of videos on that, just on the basics to put in your pack. But get you a medical kit, and I can't recommend Dark Angel enough. Even though Carrie's not here, I carried a trauma kit on my belt as an officer, and I wouldn't carry another kit because you can get cheaper ones on Amazon, but you kind of get what you pay for. And the Dark Angel kits have the kit for life guarantee. If you use it to save a life, including your own, they will restock the kit for free for life. That's peace of mind. That is amazing kits. Get one, even if it's just a basic first aid kit. They've got kits, what they call the ouch pouch, which basically covers your basic first aid, all the way up to the DART kits, the direct action response kits that can plug a gunshot wound. I carried a full trauma kit. I carried a DART kit. The new Spear kit is another one. It's a high-end trauma kit. You never know, especially if you work in a high risk occupation like law enforcement, firefighter, EMT, search and rescue. Take a med kit, have a med kit, know how to use it. And you can go to Dark Angel Medical's YouTube channel, and they will teach you the basics for free on some of these videos, like how to apply a tourniquet, how to seal a wound. So these skills are invaluable, especially if you're going to be spending any time out there. Be safe.
Yep, absolutely.
Findings. Look left, right, up, and down. Make sure you're not stepping on anything that could hurt you, and make sure something's not above you getting ready to drop on you, because cryptids have been reported climbing trees, and mountain lions tend to hunt from above. So watch above you. West Coast says, hey, DAX Machination, sorry I'm so late, got called in to work, unfortunately. Well, Shane, we're just glad you made it, brother. Always glad to see you. David By says, Dark Angel kits and training. A great kit is useless without training, absolutely. Get a kit, know how to use it. And again, folks, these are just the basics. I could go on, I could go on for the better part of an hour on just basic survival things you should have in your pack. And there's a whole different ball of wax if it's a day use pack or you plan on being out overnight. There's a whole different animal. A day use pack is totally different than something that you're going to have to be out there possibly overnight. And having a go bag in your car in case you, especially with winter coming, if you get trapped out in the middle of nowhere, your car slides off in the ditch and you've got to survive out there until somebody finds you, it's a whole different animal that you want to carry in a kit like that. Different kits for different things. But again, I'm just talking about basic survival gear if you're going out in the woods. Again, I should probably do a series of videos on different packs, that, day use pack, overnight pack, multiple day packs, vehicle kits. So I should probably do a video for each of those. That's, I'll add that to the list of stuff I need to get done. But definitely have a plan, stick to the plan, be careful, and come home safe. Krista, I know you and the ladies over at Blondes and Booze, You guys go into some pretty hairy situations, and just it's being forewarned is being forearmed.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to walk into a situation that's potentially dangerous and find out you weren't prepared for it.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. You're correct.
Same thing with Robbie going on duty. I tell him all the time, you be careful tomorrow, because I know what and one of the most dangerous things that that officers face is what television likes to refer to as routine calls, because there are no routines. One of the worst things that you can do is go to a domestic. Those calls can turn ugly fast. And as much as domestics worried me, the last year or so I was in didn't bother me near as much as the approach on a vehicle stop, especially with tinted windows, because you didn't know what you were about to walk up on.
Right. Yeah.
And that was always the thing that was in the back of my head. Do I go ahead and rock the hood forward and put my hand on my gun? Is this a 16-year-old kid that just was driving a little too fast, or is there 5 guys in here that might shoot me? You don't know, especially with tinted windows. There's danger out there in every shape and form.
Yep, for sure.
Just be safe, be prepared, and come back and see us. So again, Krista, thank you for coming on. I know you jumped in kind of last minute.
That's all right.
Me and Robbie were glitching in and out. I don't know if we were getting too close to something, because shockingly, my computer hasn't done it since. And it's weird that we both froze at the same time.
Very weird.
Something's hinky's going on. I don't know exactly what it is, but something definitely hinky is going on.
Yep, I believe that 100%.
I do too. Meg Mills says thank you to all police, local or state. Say a big thank you to all first responders out there. I hope you guys know that we support you guys 100%. All our military and veterans out there, thank each and every one of you guys for the freedom that we enjoy on a daily basis, and especially thanks to those that paid the ultimate sacrifice and gave their all. There's a phrase they say about veterans. All gave some gave all, and I think that sums it up very well.
Yep.
So thank you guys. Thank you to all our veterans and law enforcement and first responders all across the board, and to all our servicemen and women out there. Mark Napier says, don't forget LBL has loads of copperheads and rattlers. That's why winter is not a bad time to go. But again, I know Ozark's good night, but Robbie, thank you, brother. You're on tomorrow, aren't you?
No, I'm supposed to be out, but I got to work the elementary school for OT tomorrow.
Well, you be safe.
Yep, for sure.
And
then I go back home this weekend.
Folks, when you say your prayers tonight, again, remember Miss Lenita. Keep her in your prayers. Anthony and Doc. Last I knew, Doc was still on the road. He was he had a 14-hour drive from Texas to back home to Colorado. So he hasn't texted me back. So I don't think he's made it home yet. Just keep those guys in your prayers too. I know a lot of folks took a lot of damage from the two hurricanes that hit Florida. So again, keep those folks in your prayers too. So thank you guys so much. Thank each and every one of you guys for spending time with us. Welcome. I'm glad every one of you guys are part of the DAX Machina Nation. We're proud to have you. I've said it before. I'll say it again. We don't have fans. We have friends. So thank you guys for being with us. Krista, thank you for jumping in. I know you come in to save us two idiots.
Oh, you guys! I always have a good time with you guys.
We always do too. Folks, thank you guys so much, and we will we'll see you guys on Saturday night when. I haven't announced the topic for that yet. It's something I'm going to was going to talk to Anthony and Robbie both about after the show, but we hadn't had a chance to chat with Anthony yet. But we'll have the show up for Saturday, probably in the next 24 to 48 hours, maybe less. And don't forget to check out Blondes and Booze and the Woo on Friday night. And what you guys on Tuesday nights as well?
No, Thursday. Tomorrow night.
Okay. Well, check out Blondes and Booze on Thursday and Blondes and Booze in the Woo on Friday night. They're part of the Tex and Company over there, and make sure you go give their channel a like and subscribe. Big shout out to them, and thanks to all the Blondes and Booze. You guys are awesome. Appreciate everything you guys do, and love the stuff you guys are investigating, and can't wait to join you guys this spring in a big weird wild hunt out by the ranch.
For sure. And everybody that's out there that's watching, we'll be doing some lives too, so they can come with us,
Well, folks, again, hope you guys have had a great night. Hope you enjoyed hanging out with us. We won't have a show next Wednesday night because it's the night before Thanksgiving, and I've got family coming in, so I'm going to have a whole bunch of family in the house, and won't do a show next Wednesday. But we will do one Saturday, and we'll do one the following Saturday. So look, make sure you remember that, and again, join us on Friday night. So thank you guys, thank you everybody, thank you to the Blondes and Booze for bailing me and Robbie out as we were frozen like statues. You guys are awesome.
Anytime.
And again, join us on Saturday night, and hope to see you guys then. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful week. And remember, keep those folks in your prayers, and we will see you guys on Saturday night. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAX Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.